Hi everybody, welcome to a 10-minute video for hips. So we're going to be concentrating on stretching the hips, warming up the hips gently, and we will get nice and deep, so feel free to take variations, leave things off, and let's get loose. So we're going to start today. We'll need one block. If you don't have a block, grab a book, or paperbacks work if you stack a couple together, or just anything that is slightly solid that will give you a lift. And coming into tabletop, I'm going to come right into just a couple of cats and cows, start to move into the hips, easing in, see how they feel today. Rolling through the spine. And checking in with your low back. Sometimes if you feel like you're tight in your hamstrings, or you just feel this tightness and you think that you're never ever going to get deeper into your hips, sometimes it has to do with your low back. So really paying attention to how that feels. Let's take one more round. Come in, take the knees wide, and take a really wide child's pose. So knees might even come off the edge of the mat. You can come down to your forearms if your chest doesn't reach all the way. Breathe here for a moment. And start to walk your hands in, keeping your hips back towards your heels. Taking your right hand out in front of you, but straight down the midline, and open up for a twist. Keep the shins pressing down, and open up. Deep breath in. Exhale, slowly release, just switching sides. Left hand down, replacing the right, opening up. Exhale, come back through center. Start to walk your hands forward, rolling over your knees. Toes come to touch. Bring yourself forward into swan. We're going to hang out here for a couple of breaths. Think about sending your thighs down and just kind of relaxing into this. If you feel any pulling or any tightness in your low back, if it's too much, you can lift up a little bit, pull your hips away, and just think about sending your chest forward. Let's take two more full breaths. And as you exhale, lift those hips, sit it back. Nice big wide child's pose. Lifting up through tabletop, bring those knees back in a little closer. Taking the right foot in between your hands, coming into a low lunge. So you can stay with your hands down. Take a couple of breaths here. Feel like you're pulling your right heel back and your left knee forward. So there's that push and pull to help stabilize the pelvis. And then almost as if you're being dragged forward, try and almost slide that back knee across the floor by pulling your chest towards the top of the mat. So you're going to feel a little bit more across the front of that left hip. Breathe in here. Keep the lower abdominals lifted. And as you exhale, shift back, half split. We are going to work on straightening the knee here. So you don't want to lock the knee out. Just want to gently pull the hips back and lengthen the back of the knee rather than forcing it straight. Stretching out towards that big toe. And then rotate pinky toe down towards the mat, big toe down to the mat. Going back and forth. This movement is happening all the way up in your hip socket. So your pelvis is going to rock a little bit side to side. That's totally fine. One more each way, right and left. And come back in through center. Come back forward into your low lunge. Bring your hands to the top of your thigh. Press down into that front foot. And we're going to come up to our toes in the back foot. So just tuck those toes under. You might want to stay here. This might be enough. Starting to feel it in that left leg. If you want a little bit more, lean forward just a little bit so you roll over. You're not right on the kneecap. You're a little bit to the top of it, more towards the top of your thigh. And then bend your back knee. Hug that heel in. So we're using strength to stretch. Very active stretch here. Breathe in, breathe in. You can lift the chest up a little bit more if you've got the space. Again, check in with your low back. Make sure your hips are squared. Let's take one more big breath. And as you exhale, gently release those toes. Hands come back to the mat. Slide that right foot back. And we're going to switch sides. Left foot forward. Coming in for our low lunge. Again, nice and square. Everything is nice and stable. Pressing into the top of that back foot. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in. Belly button drawn up and in. Finding that belly lock. One last breath here. And then as you exhale, taking it back, again, working towards the straight knee, not forcing it, just taking it as far as it can go. Notice if that left hip is hiked up, let it drop down a little bit. Keep the spine long. Start to rotate all the way up in that left hip, pinky toe to big toe. Last one, side to side. Bring it back in through center. Walk back forward. Low lunge. Bringing hands to the top of the thigh. And notice if your hips have kind of gone off square, pull everything back up and in. Pull through the inner thighs. Your glutes are working. Your hip flexors are working. You can stay here or tucking that back toe. You can stay there or leaning a little bit forward so you're more on the top of the thigh than right on the top of the kneecap. Hug that right heel in. You can lift the chest back up once you get where you want to be. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Feel like you're pulling that heel towards your glute as strong as you can. Take one last big breath. And as you exhale, gently release. Hands to the mat. Take it back. Tabletop. And just take a couple of rounds of hip circles each way. Just find a little movement. Both ways. And coming back in. Coming around to a seat, grabbing a hold of your block. So we're going to come into Baddha Konasana, bound angle. And we're going to use our block in between the feet. So this is kind of level 3. This might be level 2. This is level 1. So pick where you want to be. I'm going to go with 2 today. Get settled evenly in your hips. hold on to the ankles, pull yourself up, and then lean out and over. Now you can keep this active, pulling yourself past your toes, or once you get to the point where you're like, all right, this is where my hips want to stay, you can rest your elbows on the block. Taking about 4 or 5 breaths. You can always hold these a lot longer than I cue in the video, so feel free to pause at any time and just hang out here for as long as feels good. And just give yourself as much time as you need in these stretches. Relaxing the muscles around your hips. Last big breath. And when you're ready, coming up, if you want to add in another one of these, you can go to the next level, like maybe for the next few breaths, I would turn it to level 3, come back in. For right now, we're going to take our block from out in between the feet and place our feet on it, coming into Baddha Konasana again. So take a deep breath in. As you exhale, really relax your hips down, relax your shoulders, and this time just sort of lay yourself over. You can rest on your ankles. Make sure your knees feel okay. If you need to add extra blocks under your knees, go for it. And taking about 4 or 5 breaths, or taking as long as you need. Giving yourself time in this stretch. And this is going to get a little bit deeper into the low back, and that's okay. Just make sure it feels sort of dull, broad, and achy rather than anything sharp or painful. Relaxing your shoulders wherever you end up. Slowly, when you're ready, walking your way back in. Take the block off to the side. You might need it for this last pose. We're going to end our little stretch session in seated wide-legged forward fold. So rotating the thighs backwards, feel nice and settled in your hips. When you start to get deeper, your hips are going to lift up just so you can fold further. That's okay. Don't get focused on keeping the sits bones completely connected to the mat. So just take it little bit by little bit. Do work on keeping the knees and the toes pointed up. You can grab your block. You can reach that block out as far as you want to go. Place your hands on the block. Resting your forearms on the block. And we'll end here. Take as much time in this space as you need. And just remember to breathe. Namaste. Thanks, everybody.